raise or lower this. But what I need to do is I want to make sure my drill stop is not deeper than about 3/8 inch. If I go too deep, I'll hit these connectors. So what I'm going to do is make sure that I don't go too deep. Now you can also tell as you start to drill through, there's a point where you'll break through and you'll feel that the penetration becomes a lot easier. It's at that point you want to stop. Don't go any farther. It'll be pretty hard going for a little while, and then as soon as you feel it break through, you'll feel a little grip with this. You know you've broken through, and stop drilling. There I went. I felt a little snug. I felt a little snug pop, and I went through. So now you can see, you can actually look through there and see the contact, the upper contact from the side. Now we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Turn it on, and go through the other side. Again, 3/8 inch. You don't want to go too deep, and be careful that you don't go. Be careful that you don't go all the way to the contact. There again, I can look through. Now I can look through, and I can see all the way through, and I can see the upper end of those contacts. Okay, our next purpose, the next goal, is to get this fishing line. What we want to do is we want to weave it through underneath the upper connectors, so it's between the upper connectors and the plastic, to give it a little distance and to give it some resistance so it will never ever recede again. Well, how do we do that? Well, the way that I've come up with it is you insert one of these push needles, or lifting tools as I call them, inside on the one end, and you push it all the way through. Well, how do you do that, you might ask? Well, one way is to gently, you can insert this underneath the top one, and then using a pair of pliers, just a regular set of pliers, you can push it all the way through, gently pushing it through, and you can feel it as it glides through. That's one way of doing it. Some of them, you can see here, I'm pushing it little by little as it slides through. So we put the flat edge this way, and now we're weaving it through, and you can't see it, but it's going underneath. From this one end, it's going underneath all the connectors. Another way of doing it is this lifting tool that we have available also. You can order this from us. It should, if you, it's not listed in your appendix, go ahead and send it to us. Go ahead and send your inquiry to us. But insert that in like that and push on it, and it'll lift those up to where you can insert that thing and push it through. Once you're through the first 36, you push it into the second 36, and you can push it all the way through now, and it'll come out the other end. Okay, so now you see that we've been able to push this, and if you examine it very closely, you'll see that it's underneath all the connectors. It's come out the other end, so we've got it out one end and out the other. Now what we've done is we've taken a smaller diameter. This, I believe, is 25 thousandths or 30 thousandths. You can get these tools from us also. I've taken a smaller diameter. I think this is 15 or 20. And what I've done is I've flattened the one end, and I've super glued some of this fishing line onto the end of it, and then with a razor blade, I've tapered it so that it's smooth and that it'll pull through. Once this is in there to hold the connectors up, what you do is you feed the smaller hole now, or you feed the smaller steel wire in through the hole, whereas this is now holding it open. Now that it comes out the other end, grip it with the pliers, and you twist it so that the joint is sideways. The purpose of this is if there's a weak joint, you don't want to expose it to the blades or to the ribs. You want to keep it against this other steel rod so that it's smooth and doesn't grab it and pull it out. So what we'll do now is we'll pull this through, and it comes out the other end. And now you see what we've got is we've got a fishing line underneath all 36 of the upper connectors. Now we just grip this other one and we pull it right out. And so now we've got the fishing line underneath there. So what we're able to do now is we'll cut this off using either a razor blade or some wire snips, and we've accomplished what we've set out to do. We've rebuilt the connector. We've cleaned the bottom connectors, raised the lower connectors, and now we've inserted a line through the top. Takes a little getting used to, and you may ruin a couple of these while you do it, but eventually you'll get pretty good at it, and it'll indeed pay for itself. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to clip the wire, clip the fishing line. You'll see that the fishing line extends out both sides about 2 inches. That's okay. You want to leave it like that. Leave it like that. And now I'm going to put the excess fishing line. What I do is I put about 6 feet or so on there. Then I can use it over and over again for multiple connectors. Now you see that this one is rebuilt and ready to go back in the machine. Again, insert our cleaning cloth, gently move it back and forth. As I mentioned earlier, it's easier to catch one of these fingers and bend it. So you want to be careful on that. Move it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And now that it's clean, we'll reassemble. I'm going to go backwards, and I'm going to do this in time-lapse photography. I'm going to reassemble it so you'll be able to watch. We have the unit back together, ready to return to the customer. Clean top, everything's been cleaned on it. Check the front, make sure the front's fine. You can wipe it off now with a wet rag or a clean rag, and it's ready to return to the customer. We marked the serial number down in my book that I've repaired it, give them a 30-day guarantee, and I put my name and phone number on the bottom so that now they can call me back if they have a referral or if they have any trouble with it. I've already tested it to make sure it worked. Turned it on, and you should get a screen. The thing to remember is because this is a rebuilt connector, it'll be a little tight at first, getting them in and out. Cartridges go in real tight. Nintendo intended this to be a zero insertion force socket. However, it worked fine for a little while, but it doesn't work indefinitely as a zero insertion force socket. So therefore we've changed it to a socket that requires insertion force now, but what it will do is it will loosen up as you use it. So let the parents know that. Another way of loosening it up is to keep the connector, just keep a game in it overnight or so and it'll loosen up. Is the game cartridges themselves. The game cartridges tend to get a little dirty, and you can tell by looking at this end, and you can tell by looking in there how dirty that they are. For you, the way that I clean them, that I think is the proper method. With your kit, you should have got a couple of these. It's just a popsicle stick with a cleaner cloth on the end. Very, very good for cleaning contacts and the games. If you don't want to invest in a game opener, which we also sell, it's a little connector that goes on the end of a 1/4-inch spinner for taking apart the games, and I'll show you how to, I think, the best way to clean a game. If you don't want to do that, you can get one of these and simply rub this along the edge of either cartridge, and you can see how dirty that is, and you can see how much dirt there was. Now, the Mario 2, the Super Mario 2, which is a trademark of Nintendo, incidentally, it was dirty enough earlier that I couldn't get it to work. So one thing you may want to do is, it says not to use any alcohol on it, but what I like to do, I like to take these little cleaners that I provide, and the way that I provide them is with quite an extension on the end, and this is so that you can get inside the game and clean them, and I'll show you how to do that a little later. But once you've done that, what I like to do is cut away the flimsy end, and what that leaves me with is a pretty solid